Michigan wins 90 to 77 over Alabama, where it truly was a game of two halves. If you really watched this game, you truly saw that in the first half, this was a game that was kind of going Alabama's way, Alabama style. I don't want to say it was like chaos, but that's kind of the way they play. Like they play up and down. They were playing really kind of what they needed to in order to beat Michigan, right? Obviously put up a ton of points going at halftime. I believe it was 49-47, and Alabama was hitting shots. And it really started out with LeBaron Philon. I thought he was great for Alabama in this game. 35 points. Really, he was the offense for Alabama in this game. And really, Michigan was kind of playing into what Alabama wanted them to do. This was going to be a game where if Alabama was making a ton of threes, if Alabama was able to run up and down the court, if Alabama was able to really kind of knock in the half court offense type of game, that was going to be a game that Alabama was going to win. And in the first half, Alabama was able to do that. But full on credit to Michigan, especially the coaching staff, for really kind of completely changing the second half, right? The second half was completely different. Alabama was not able to really run up and down the court. It was a much more of a half court type of game in the second half, and because of that, Alabama really struggled. And Michigan's size obviously played a big factor into that. There was multiple blacks, especially in the second half, early on with corner threes, where it looked like Alabama was going to get a shot off. Michigan was able to block out of bounds, and really Alabama, once it started to get into that half court type game, the offense wasn't getting going at all. Michigan's obviously size defense was able to really ramp up quite a bit and really made Alabama uncomfortable offensively. But that wasn't the only good part in the second half for Michigan, right? It wasn't just the defense, because the defense in the second half was great. Michigan just continued to hit shots. Axel Endenberg was absolutely incredible in this game. 8 for 12 from the field, 4 for 5 from three, 23 points, 12 rebounds. There was a point in the second half where what he was doing was absolutely absurd. He was just dominating. He was a guy that really showed why he was the Big Ten Player of the Year, right? He really truly stepped up in the biggest points. And it wasn't just him, right? Elliot Cadeau was hitting shots, 17 points. Riley Gale continues to be a guy, especially in NCAA tournament, Big Ten tournament, right? It really seems like Riley Gale, for some reason, performs poorly all year, and then when it comes to big time moments, big time games, he starts hitting shots. He had 16 points off the bench. Trey McKinney had 17 points off the bench. Michigan shot 48% from three in this game. It really seemed like Michigan was able to really not only respond, but really match, especially what Alabama was doing offensively in the second half. And really another big component of why Michigan was able to really kind of separate itself in the second half was rebounding, right? In the first half, I believe the separation was maybe 1 or 2 rebounds. Michigan ended up out rebounding Alabama by 14 rebounds. And that was just because not only their size was able to really dominate down low, Ade Mara started getting going a little bit offensively. Morez Johnson, this wasn't even one of his best performances. I thought Morez Johnson really struggled in this game. 3 for 10 from the field, especially early on in this game. He was missing layups, and that's something that he didn't do a whole ton. Now, obviously, it didn't really matter at the end of the day, just because Michigan was able to kind of keep up with Alabama. Obviously, Alabama did go in a half up 2, but even that shouldn't even happen, right? Ademara took a really, really bad shot with about 16 seconds left, gave Alabama a chance to go up at half. They were obviously able to do that because of Philon, but this was a game that really kind of completely changed after that point. I do think Dusty May obviously got into these guys a little bit at halftime. Obviously, Yaxel was like, hey, I'm not going to let this happen. Before the game, basically said, he's like, hey, I wasn't ever recruited by Bama, kind of played a little bit of a chip on his shoulder type mindset. Turns out that's not true according to Dusty May. But that's just what Yaxel sometimes does. But at the end of the day, this was a really good shooting performance from Michigan. This was a really good second half performance from Michigan as well. It truly seems like this is a second half team, which is kind of scary for a lot of teams. I know this team is very scary overall when they're making shots, 50% from the field, 48% from three, like I was saying. But you really have to go up by quite a bit. You really have to kind of take advantage of that first half if you want to beat this team. Now, obviously, Michigan has lost some games this year, and that's just because like the teams that they have played obviously were able to match their physicality, was able to hit a ton of threes, but also defensively they performed well. And this Alabama team is not a great defensive performance team. They don't have a ton of size, and really Michigan was able to wear them down, and that's just what they've done throughout the season. Michigan was able to win by 13, win comfortably, especially after a couple of really big runs in the second half where Alabama wasn't really able to respond. Michigan was able to go up a little bit in the first half. Alabama was able to respond. Really, that's the key point of this whole thing is rebounding. Huge mismatch in the second half. Two, style of game completely switched in the second half. And three is just this overall like runs and having to really respond. It's really, really difficult to respond every single time to what this Michigan team does. And yeah, Alabama really struggled doing that. Full on credit to Michigan. They're now going to Elite Eight and they're going to be facing Tennessee, which are going to be a very big favorite against Tennessee. We're going to see what Rick Barnes has against Dusty May. This is a Tennessee offense that isn't very good. They don't have a ton of playmakers. I fully expect Michigan to win that game. And I think this is going to be a Michigan team that will probably be lined up with either Arizona or Purdue in the Final Four. But obviously, I'll talk about that when it happens. If it happens, I'll obviously talk about the Tennessee game as well after that concludes. But yeah, really good performance, especially in the second half for Michigan. That's the much more Michigan type team that I think everyone's kind of expecting and really seeing throughout this year. Rough first half, but at the end of the day, when you have a rough first half and you're only down two and you're not really making shots and you kind of able to slow down the game a little bit in the second half, that obviously plays into your favor and doesn't really concern you too much. And this is just your typical Michigan performance where they just start to kind of lock up the screws a little bit, tighten up the screws defensively, and still able to hit shots. And yeah, Yaxel was great in this game. Elliot Cadeau was great in this game. Michigan got bench contributions where Alabama did not. And really, it was Phylon, it was Wrightsell, and Sherrill. And that's all Alabama got in this game. So congrats to Michigan on going to the Elite Eight. Obviously, they'll play Tennessee. We'll see exactly what happens with that game tomorrow. But good win for Michigan. Michigan goes to Elite Eight, continues their march in the March tournament. So thanks for tuning in. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, and tune in to other content as well.